What's up, geeks and everyone else? Welcome to Geek Mythology, a podcast brought to you by my good friend Sal.
And Seth here, also known as Sugi on YouTube.
So, it's been a very long time since I actually last uploaded. Well, there's been a big gap between episodes because of some technical problems that I've been having over the past couple months. Yeah, it's October already. It's already October. I'm like, whoa, where is the time gone? It's just like flashed past in yeah, so I basically had some technical problems with my computer, which means I couldn't actually edit and get out those episodes. But
so yeah, the last episode that was posted was actually recorded before September, but that came out a bit late.
Yeah, like that episode is like a month delayed, and like lots of the stuff we talked about was so old, like old news.
At that point, yeah.
By the time it came out, yeah, but like we've got a new setup, and hopefully we can be a bit more consistent with content.
Okay. We've got some time to record, so yeah.
But a good thing about this like long gap between episodes is that we've like watched lots of stuff, so we've got plenty of new stuff to talk about in the podcast.
Yeah, we do.
So, have you been doing anything interesting since the last time we were recording?
But my friend, you are forgetting something.
Yes.
The joke.
The joke, right? Yeah, we need to do the joke before we do anything else. So, here's the joke. Why do bees have sticky hair?
Because they're honey.
Well, because they use honeycombs. Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's something in my throat. Just
Is it some honey? Is there like honey stuck in your throat?
I don't think so. I haven't had honey in years.
Have you not? Wow.
Yeah, no.
Wow. So back to what I was trying to mention. Have you been watching anything?
Well, I guess since summer, particularly since like the start of school, I suppose. I watch anime. You know this. People know this.
Yeah.
And I do have quite a reasonable list of anime that I've started but never finished.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now, before I really watch new shows, I'm trying to finish the old shows that I've started.
Okay. Yeah.
That's something I've been doing.
Oh, yeah. And do you have any anime in particular that you want to mention?
I mean, there's one I watched. The last one I finished was called My Roommate is a Cat. And it's just this really wholesome sort of thing about this writer who's really introverted, but he kind of becomes a bit more social because of his cat. And his cat sort of helps him come out of its shell. And the interesting thing about that show is the first half of the episode normally is from the human's perspective, while the second half is from the cat's perspective.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's one thing.
The cat's perspective.
Yeah.
Wow.
So essentially, I'm trying to finish all the anime that I've started, get them out of the way, have actually watched them instead of half watched them.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And
yeah.
Okay.
You go.
I'll go because
anything you're going to talk about is probably shared with me at this point. So
yeah, I've been watching quite a few things recently over the past couple months. The main one is Gravity Falls. That took up like lots of my time. I mean, it took maybe like 2 weeks for me to actually watch all 2 seasons.
And there's me having
2 or 3
watched
weeks.
the first season in 3 days.
Thing is, I was watching it during the school term, and I probably only did like 1 episode a day.
Yeah, fair enough. So
that took up most of my time in terms of how long it took to watch the show. But more recently, I've been watching Kipo, the final season of Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts, which was pretty cool, and I saw that over a few days. And I've been watching this show called Ted Lasso, which is quite funny how I found out about this show. So I was actually doing the dishes, right? I was listening to a different podcast, and
one we mentioned quite a bit.
Popcorn Culture. So I was listening to that, and they were talking about this show about Ted Lasso, and you could probably check out their channel and their podcast. But this show is essentially about this American football coach who like comes to the UK to teach um football, like British soccer, not British,
Oh,
like soccer, right? Football, like
yeah, yeah.
he comes to teach football, and he knows nothing about football because he he does American football, which is a different game. So he comes over
Completely
here
different.
and he coaches a Premier League football team, like the top league. And
Oh,
it's funny, and yeah, like
that
I
does
really
sound.
enjoyed that show, and it's a bit different to the sort of stuff I normally watch because it's more
Yeah,
of like this real set in the real world. It's not like fantasy or anything. So it's an
yeah.
interesting change for a bit. But I really
Um,
enjoyed the show. So yeah.
I would like to mention one thing,
Mhm.
since we mentioned podcasts, right? There's this one podcast I found by complete chance on TikTok on my For You page.
Yep.
I don't go into my For You page once, but recently it's been defaulting to my For You page instead of my following page.
Yep.
So on there, I was scrolling through, there's something that just came along. It's a podcast called Blonde Radio.
Okay.
I started listening to it today, you see,
Mhm.
and I've listened to like the first episode and a bit of the second one. And the concept is the guy just interviews strangers. It's
Ah,
like
on the
people he's never
podcast.
met. Yeah, on the podcast. That's the podcast.
It's
He just
interesting.
talks to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
He talks to like strangers from all over the world. I just joined their Discord, because I was like, hey, they have a Discord. What am I? I'm a Discord person,
Are you gonna like
literally.
join their podcast
I
as a
No, because
special
the whole thing
guest?
is you have to DM him on TikTok
Right.
and stuff. So
Okay.
I probably won't do it. But it's interesting because one of the people he's talked to, I've been like, I can somewhat relate to some things that some of them have talked to, and it's just interesting to talk to them. For
Mhm. Yeah.
him,
With
listening to
them.
them talk.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to anyone in the Discord yet, but it's a really interesting concept because every episode it's just him interviewing people he's basically never talked to, I think,
Mm.
and it's just complete
That's. I
strangers.
mean,
And
I
it's,
can never do
yeah,
that because I am like
yeah,
antisocial.
like
I
the
wouldn't
whole
say
thing he's
antisocial, but
yeah,
like
the whole thing he's
introverted.
saying, like his intro and stuff, is how like the way you get to know people is by talking to them, and
Yeah.
he is just talking to people. That's all it is. It's like
Yeah.
it's different, that's for sure, but it's also interesting, and I've liked it so far. I've listened to the first episode. Also, it's not very long. The episodes are around like from what I've seen is 30 to 45 minutes,
Yeah.
so it's
It's
much
quite
easier
short.
to listen to than
Mm.
another podcast called Trash Taste, which is by these anime YouTubers, where every episode is around 2 hours.
Thing is, like with
Yeah,
2 hour long episodes, like that's a long time. I sometimes
it
find
is.
one
It
hour
is.
episodes quite long.
Yeah,
Like
but the thing is, for me, the times I listen to podcasts is either when I'm traveling, when I'm outside,
yeah.
or actually when I'm having a shower. Instead of music, I decide to listen to podcasts,
Interesting.
which is cool.
And I do
So I
it.
thought
Yeah.
I might as well mention that since we're
Yeah.
on the topic of things we've been finding recently. But back
And
to the main thing
back
we
to
want
the
to talk
main
about today.
topic.
Yeah,
I wrote down on the notes that we were going to talk about Kipo and the Age of
yeah,
Wonderbeasts, and this is like this animated series on Netflix. There are three
yeah.
seasons, and it's about
Once, may I
yeah,
just mention one thing?
sure, sure.
Once again, made by DreamWorks
Me,
because they're
okay.
the absolute bomb on Netflix. They are
Mhm.
amazing with what they release.
Yep. And this show is about this like post-apocalypse sort of world where
Yeah,
animals have like mutated into these sentient, intelligent like
yeah,
species,
basically.
and they sort of the world is kind of in ruin, and like
Yeah,
other humans are
basically.
like in bunkers and hiding
Burrows,
underground.
underground, because they obviously they just
Yeah,
animals, mutants, beasts. But in terms
yeah.
of how we got into the show, it's kind of I just told you about it by chance, and I came across it.
Yeah. I
Did
think
you
I
did you
came
come
across
across it
it.
because I told you?
No, I think I was looking for
Uh,
shows, and
I think for
Kipo
me,
was
what
just
happened? Yeah,
one of the
I think
highest
what happened
rated
to me is
ones. Yeah.
yeah. As season two was coming out on the website that I've told you about now, and you
Mhm.
actually use regularly, I saw it coming out and I kind of clicked on it. And I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And I've got Netflix now. I'll go
Yeah.
check it out. And I did watch it. I think you might have finished it before me. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
we
I
both
think
kind of
yeah.
just came across it. I guess you were kind of actively looking for shows
I
to
was
watch after you
actively
watched
looking shows
Avatar.
because like I saw Avatar, I saw Dragon
Yeah,
Prince, and I was like, I'm really
yeah.
getting into shows. Are there any good ones? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I, as always, came across it by chance because
Mm,
that's how I do things.
yeah, and
I
yeah.
come across shows by chance and I come to love them. That's how
Hmm.
I live.
So yeah, with Kipo, it's
Yeah.
about animals which have become intelligent due to some like mutation, and you call these like animals mutes. These intelligent
Yes.
animals mutes, and like as I said, it was like set in this post-apocalyptic world, and like the story of the first two seasons was like humans coming back to the surface and having to deal with these mutes, and having to bring peace and order into this war-torn world, basically, because we had all these different types of mutes and different groups basically fighting each other, and some of the mutes weren't even intelligent, they were just a bit more powerful and a bit more dangerous. So this whole like arc between season 1 and 2 was all about bringing in peace and order and unifying um, at least the mutes. And it did end on a pretty scary note with the main villain for season 3, Dr. Amelia. She was like being set up at the end of season 2 as the next big bad for the future seasons of the show. And I'm going to be going into spoilers here. So if you do care about season 3 of Kipo, just beware that there will be spoilers. So there are chapters down below. You can skip ahead to a non-Kipo topic that we talk about later on. Um, but yeah, so we have this new villain for season 3, Dr. Amelia, who is set on ending the age of mutes, and she is like working for her whole life to develop a cure to reverse this mutation and bring humans back on top. And by like trying to cure this mutation and make the mutes go back to their animal form, um, that's basically her big motive, and the good guys, the characters, are trying to stop this because it's kind of cruel to like take away these mutes' sentience in a way. Did you have anything to add to that?
Honestly, no. I was just gonna talk about Dr. Amelia herself a little bit, to be honest.
Do you wanna talk about Dr. Amelia?
If I could, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, what I was gonna say is that she had a flashback
yeah.
near the end of the show, or like she had a backstory.
Mhm.
And when I started, I was like, okay, there's this character who's sort of putting this in her mind, right?
Yeah,
Sort of instilling this idea in her head. And I was like, her, maybe we'll feel sorry for her. But then we find out she kills her own brother for what she wants.
yeah. That was
So
savage.
basically, the show doesn't want you to like her.
Yeah,
Show wants you to, because like, yeah, no, it's kind of like Ozai, right? Ozai had no reason to do what he did in Avatar,
yeah.
and Amelia had a reason because it was an idea she had since she was a child, but you don't like her for the length she would go to do it. She's
Mm,
basically put out as this absolute villain who you can't
yeah.
really like, to be
And what's
honest.
interesting is they didn't try to give her a redemption arc. They did this
No.
like opposite redemption arc like sort of thing where they gave her the
Yeah,
like option to make the right choices, but she went for the wrong choices all the time.
yeah.
To the
And
point
in
where
the end,
like when Kipo was gonna give her a second chance and she was like, no, goes to try and kill Kipo,
yeah, but
and
basically, like
yeah,
the thing at the end, what happens to her is kind of, I don't know if poetic's the right word, you know, how people kind of call it that. Is the
mm-hmm,
fact that
yeah,
she basically got trapped in her old home, in her old lab, with a mute that would just play with her mind until she's
oh.
all bones, right?
No, it's
So that's
ironic
kind of
because
ironic, yeah, that's what
she
it is.
dedicated her whole life to ending the mutes,
Yeah.
and she did that in that lab, and then she
But I'll be
dies
honest,
to a mute in that
the
lab.
thing is, that mute is probably the only one who you'd want to cure, to be honest, if you could.
That mute that killed Dr. Amelia is like crazy, in a bad way.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah, because that's the only mute where you're like, yeah, no, let's stay away from that.
thing is,
Because
what
even the mega mutes, you can sort of quote unquote tame them if you become friends with them, and the mega mutes are cool.
so like
But
this cure, right? When you give it to like this fox mute, it turns it back into a normal fox. If you give it to
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know, a frog mute, it turns it back into a frog. But this
To
weird,
you give it to a monkey human mute, it turns back into a human.
okay, but this
Except
mute
Kipo.
thing that killed Dr. Amelia was like this, like Cheetos sort of monster.
It was fungus.
Fungus,
It
right?
was a
Okay.
fungus.
So if you give the cure to that thing, would it turn into a fungus? Like, I guess. Just
I'd assume what would happen is it already looks like a big fungus, right? I assume it would just lose its intelligence.
yeah, and it would
Yeah.
just I see that. Thing is, it just looks like a big mush of like what sits in Cheetos and like other orange
Yeah.
sort of crisps.
Yeah, it does.
um,
And
yeah,
he is he's the one actually creepy thing in the show. Like his episode is what you'd call the one horror episode you have in a show. You know, like
yes, it's
every show has this episode which
horror,
is a horror episode.
like the
And
Matt,
that was Kipo's horror episode.
yeah. I mean, I still think that the scariest episode I've seen is the blood bending in Avatar.
Yeah,
That
no,
was
like
scary.
I can say for sure, a lot of shows have this one episode which is meant to be scary. Like Pokemon, pretty much almost every season had the scary episode. Avatar had the blood bending episode, right?
Yeah.
Shows for some reason just decide, we need a scary episode.
Do you think
Uh,
they like air these episodes during Halloween?
I
don't know,
know.
because like what is it? There's this episode of Gravity Falls which is like very Halloween
Yeah.
dedicated, and I'm pretty sure
I
it would have been aired during Halloween.
No, the thing for me is I was like, as soon I watched that literally like an hour ago, right? And I was
Yeah.
like,
What, the Halloween
here we go.
episode?
It's the POV episode. It's the point of view episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, here we go.
We could talk about Halloween later on in the podcast, seeing as it's quite relevant. Like it's next week as of recording, so we'll talk about that at some point. But I do want to
So,
mention.
what else do we talk about, Kipo?
I want to go off, talk more about the cure and like the idea of medicine and vaccines and stuff in pop culture in general. So we've established that in Kipo, they've got this cure to reverse the mutation of these mutes.
I'd say one of the best things about the cure that they added, which makes scientific sense, is the fact that it didn't work on Kipo herself, because it's her DNA that was used to make the cure, so she herself would be immune because it's her DNA. Which is a really cool touch, to be honest. It kind of that's what made Amelia panic and go to do what she did, and that's great.
When you realize that the cure doesn't actually work.
Well, yes, because it's like you mentioned vaccines. That's how vaccines work.
It's kind of like blood types, I guess. Like some people just can't.
I was gonna like the one biology question we have to memorize was like, what are vaccines? Basically, you're injected with a weaker version of a virus. So when you actually get that virus, your body already knows how to fight it off, and that's why it kind of helped you. And that's what happened with Kipo. It was her own DNA. What other sort of pop culture you want to look at?
So there's like, in terms of the mutation sort of thing, which happens in Kipo, which turns all these animals into intelligent species, it's kind of similar, I guess, to Jurassic Park, where they bring back the dinosaurs from like fossilized DNA, and then they make a theme park out of it, and stuff happens.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Let's just bring back the dinosaurs, put them in a zoo, and then
I've genuinely never seen the Jurassic Park films.
Not even Jurassic World.
No, not really.
You're missing out.
I know the whole thing about the fact that they just kind of rampage a little.
Yeah, like they I mean, I guess it's a cool idea to bring back the dinosaurs, but like as long as you keep them locked up. As long as you keep them locked up, just
to be fair,
don't do it.
I don't think the park was open to the general public yet, so
yeah,
they hadn't finished their safety checks.
Maybe like build a secure facility to keep the dinosaurs in before you bring the dinosaurs back. What else is there? There's like the
you mentioned are you talking about general pop culture, right?
There's the
there's the genetic stuff in Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's the genetic stuff in Spider-Man to do with Dr. Kurt Connors, and I'm gonna let you talk about it because you're the Marvel guy here.
I haven't seen the exact films that Seth has put in the notes, being the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield, the 2012 ones. I haven't seen them, but I've seen pretty much every other Spider-Man thing there is.
And you know
But
about the
they,
comics, right?
no,
You
not
don't know
really,
about.
not at
Okay,
all.
okay.
But from what I've seen, basically, a few Spider-Man villains are basically mutated from animal DNA, kind of like how in Kipo, spoilers, obviously, we've said this before. Amelia injects herself with mutant DNA to become a mute herself to fight off Kipo, who is
Mhm.
also a mute. Blah 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 blah. But basically, Kurt Connors, the reason he decides to inject himself with lizard DNA, because he is the villain called the Lizard, is the fact that doesn't have an arm. He has one arm. The other arm's
Mhm.
gone
Yeah.
somewhere. I don't. Different adaptations take that differently, right?
Yeah.
But basically, he uses that DNA to get a lizard arm, but that eventually evolves into a whole problem where his human brain
His whole
is
body.
fighting with an alter
Yeah.
ego being the lizard. So
Yeah.
I think it pretty much first starts off. He's like, "Oh, guys, I found a way to give myself an arm. It's a lizard hand." But then the lizard starts taking over his mind, and that's the sort of thing. Like, Kurt Connors doesn't want to be the lizard, but the lizard is an alter ego essentially.
Yeah. And what's interesting is like I'm assuming Dr. Kurt Connors is this really smart guy, right?
Yes,
Who managed
he's
to.
like a professor.
Yeah.
I think in
And
some adaptations he's Peter's teacher and such.
yeah, like Peter is like his apprentice or like intern, I guess, working for his science company and doing
Like
stuff.
even in college
He's like an
sometimes as
apprentice,
well.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was Peter Parker. That's what he was doing. But what's interesting is like if you're gonna be this really smart doctor, couldn't you like I don't know make yourself a robotic arm or go for something more safe?
I think the thing is, I think Kurt Connors' speciality was like
Genetics,
biogenetics.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the sort of whole thing. Like another villain in the Spider-Man universe who is mutated with animal DNA is the Rhino, and he's well
I don't
Rhino.
know this guy. Is he?
But basically, he's
Yeah.
also gone through the same thing. I think he was more like he was forced to become the Rhino, so he has
Mm,
genetic DNA, and that. It's sort of the same thing that happens with Connors when he's the Rhino, who kind of loses his intelligence. But then
yeah.
in different adaptations, obviously make it differently. Sometimes the Rhino is voluntarily the Rhino, sometimes he's not. But it's sort of in Spider-Man, that's sort of how some villains are. It's just like animal genetic DNA.
Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
Goblin
Yeah.
as well. The Goblin, the main villain of Spider-Man, the Goblin, is also made due to like genetic modifications.
So there's lots of
Well,
like examples of like genetics
there
in
is.
pop culture. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool actually how they're it's basically science fiction. When you think
It
about
is.
science fiction, you normally think about like space and rockets and like I'd say the
But this is
engineering
still
side.
scientific
But
fiction.
like it's very curious to see like the biology coming into science fiction,
It is.
which
It
is cool.
is.
Um, and another like little thing that I want to talk about are the vaccines and mainly the cure from Kipo. So the Dr. Amelia like made this cure like with her test tubes and whatnot. But then she managed to mass produce enough of this cure within like a
Exactly.
couple of days, right? And if you look to the real world, it's taken like it's been like I don't know 6 or 7 months since the coronavirus um like came, and we still haven't like gotten a vaccine. But Dr. Amelia here, without a functioning lab, remember this is
No,
like
no, no, no,
yeah
no, Seth. I have a thing to point out,
yeah
right?
sure
Before having Kipo's DNA, she was trying to figure out what X is, right?
yeah.
So she'd already gotten all the other previous formulas ready over the 6 months that had been in the show.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, she's got all the
But
maths and all
still,
that.
you have a good point. Like, you have to ask yourself, of course, with science, the whole thing with some sciences is right. You take a minimal resource and turn it into a lot, sort of,
Yeah
essentially, right?
yeah
So
yeah.
maybe she didn't need a lot of Kipo's DNA for each individual bit of cure. And that's how she was able to produce so much because she'd already produced everything before that, and all she needed was to add Kipo's
Just add
DNA.
Kipo's DNA. That makes sense, but like as we saw in the show, she had like this makeshift laboratory which got destroyed
Yeah,
like halfway
she
through.
did. Yeah,
And
that's a
then
good point.
she managed to like make so much of this cure to cure maybe a few hundred of
Yeah.
thousands of them
Uh,
without
I guess
like
really, when you think about it, Seth, that's
yeah
just sort of something they don't expect people to think about. And I
Yeah,
think I'm
yeah,
the one who mentioned it to you first,
yeah.
or you maybe thought about it before as well.
I think you
But
mentioned it
yeah,
to me,
it,
but
it, it seems strange that like she got a tuft of Kipo's fur when
mhm,
she's in a jaguar form. She used that to make. I
loads.
guess also you don't need much of the cure to cure someone, because
I
you saw
guess,
that
yeah,
little bit of cured song as well. So
yeah. Oh,
depends.
yeah,
You don't, because all we see is a pink thing, but then the thing is that whole thing looks like it's filled with cure, and it's not
yeah.
like just some. Yeah, I get your point. It is a bit strange,
But
but
also, like, she might
I
have
don't think
enough
producers
cure.
intend.
She might have enough cure to like cure all the main characters and all the supporting characters. But like, what about the whole world? You probably need like a
Yeah.
factory or something to make enough of this cure. So
You know
pretty
what I
interesting,
thought
but
of?
like,
Like,
yeah.
it's a kids show, right? So they have a cure, right?
Mhm.
What if she just killed them?
Just kill all of them.
I guess the point is you're restoring natural
Oh
order,
no,
not the
no. Thing
cause of the
is,
massacre.
they don't have weapons. Like you see them using crossbows. They don't have guns anymore. I don't know what happened to all the guns. I guess it's a kids show, so they can't actually have guns, right?
Then you
Or actually like proper
yeah.
weapons.
I was gonna say, you know of Doctor Stone, right?
Yes, I know of Doctor Stone, which
Yeah,
is an anime, but I've
yeah.
not seen it.
It's basically of like science. It's the world. It's 3,000 years after everybody's been turned to stone. Blah 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 blah. You can search up. Basically, he's a 15-year-old kid who's done so much more science in 2 years than
Wait,
whatever Amelia's done.
Doctor Stone is 15.
Well, at the start of the show, he is
Right, I
15.
always assumed he was like, I don't know, at least 30 years old.
No, no, but the point is he's a high schooler.
Right.
That's
Makes
the whole
sense.
point.
It's an anime.
He's a really
Like,
smart high schooler,
yeah.
and obviously at this point, there's been a few years since the start of the manga or the
Mhm.
show. Well, it's like I guess it's a special case because he basically studied science vigorously since the age of like 5. But like still, like I guess if Amelia wasn't so tunnel visioned on a cure, she might have produced guns a while ago. Like
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
could have at least some
Yeah.
basic guns.
Also, I think I understand why it took so long because this is like generations worth of
It's been 200
research
years.
to like
It's been
develop
200
this
years.
cure. And it does make sense actually. When you're in like a bunker, you don't have any like there's no Google, there's no Zoom. You can't like collaborate with other humans.
Yeah, I also don't know the rules of that burrow going to the up top, which Amelia eventually did, and of course Song and Leo did as well. But I don't know how many of the
I
scientists actually thought
assume
about going to the surface world.
I assume they didn't go up to the surface and they
Yeah,
stayed in their bunker because like safety. And like if you expose your location to like an evil mute,
yeah.
you're
I
kinda screwing
feel
everyone.
I feel so bad for Liam in the show. Just gonna say that's the whole thing that makes you
Leo.
hate her as a character. No, Liam,
Leo.
her brother.
Oh yeah.
That's what really makes you hate. What I mentioned
Doctor
earlier is she basically
yeah.
kills her own brother to get what she wants because her brother was somebody who was getting along with the mutes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah,
She had like
yeah,
an I guess an ego. She didn't want to be proven wrong because she spent her whole life like developing this cure, and then her brother goes along and is like, hey, why don't we just make friends with the mutes? And she's like, no, I
yeah,
spent my whole life developing this cure. We are not going to throw that all away
yeah.
just to make friends, you know?
I guess that's the whole thing about Keeper. The cure is just an interesting thing, and when you're like us and you're like slightly sciencey, you just kind of pick out some stuff.
Thing is, we may be geeks in the pop culture sense, but we're also kind of geeks in the science sense, I guess. So like,
I wouldn't say that so much for me, but
okay,
yeah.
I
Basically,
admit, like, yeah,
we
we can nitpick, I guess,
we
and
we
like,
know we know about how some things work. Obviously,
whenever like
uh,
something happens, we're like, is that gonna really happen? Is
yeah,
sound actually gonna travel through space? No, you're like, but we
yeah.
just accept it because that's just pop
It's
culture,
fiction.
yeah.
It's fantasy.
And
It's fiction.
as long as like the rules are consistent, so like they can make up their own rules, but as long as they stick to these in-universe like
Yeah,
rules, we're fine with it. Like
yeah.
it might not be true in real life, you might not have explosions and
Like
sound in space, but
vibranium
like
doesn't exist, right? But we all
Vibranium doesn't.
accept it.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
it
And
might
I
accept
wanted to
actually.
ask you something.
Maybe I don't know.
Um,
Yeah.
well, you can skim over this. You can edit
Okay.
it out if
Okay.
you want, to be honest. But about the whole vaccine with COVID and how people would talk about a vaccine had been made and stuff, or
Yes.
something. What do you think about that? Did you read too much about it, or did you just hear some things? Because I just heard some things.
About the coronavirus vaccine.
Yeah.
Um, nah, it's just I think they've made a vaccine, right? It's just like
Yeah.
trials
Yeah,
because you don't want
trials.
to like
Now,
give it
like
to
we
people.
learned this. Yeah, we learned
Because
about this in
yeah,
biology,
it's very
right? It
important. Like
takes so
yeah,
much testing.
takes a lot of testing because if there's like
Yeah.
a harmful side effect and you like give it to everyone in the population, that's not very good for the
Of course,
population.
and something like this isn't just some like normal drug that can be like cheated
Yeah.
out of its test, right? This is something actually serious, as we all know. But
Mm.
that's just something I wanted to sort of just quickly mention, like how it's gonna take a while. I'd
Yeah.
say at least in the UK, I've said this to you and some others, the earliest time anything's gonna be sort of lifted or like, relaxed is probably next spring.
Next spring, yeah. Because
Yeah.
like I think the virus will be more prevalent in the winter,
Yeah.
and
Because
yeah,
to be honest,
this is
I'll say
just
this,
so
but
long.
of course I don't follow things thoroughly, right? But from what I've heard and seen, like our government did not do this well whatsoever. Like
Well,
it,
without getting
they
yeah,
did they didn't do it horribly. So we don't have like 300,000 cases, right? Actually, that
yeah.
might be a lie. Who knows? But it's still they should have taken more precautions. Like New Zealand did amazingly.
New Zealand are
We
like
can all absolutely praise New Zealand like so much because like I'm pretty sure one of their people in the government even deducted their own pay to help with the country, right?
yeah. That I mean, New
I
Zealand
don't know the truth of
handled
all
it
this, but
very
like
well.
yeah,
They've got
they did,
like
and the only
no
way they got
virus.
another case was because externals, people from outside of the country
People
came in.
came in and brought the virus with
Yeah.
them. But
But
like
they still have
yeah,
extremely low cases compared to like we were sitting at a few hundred, right? But then around this autumn, we kind of spiked into the thousands.
we're getting
So
thousands. Yeah,
yeah,
lots of countries are getting
we
thousands
could have done
actually.
better as a country, not even just our government. As a country, we could have done a
Mm,
bit better,
yeah,
because on other podcasts, on this other podcast I listened to called Help I'm Stuck in a Podcast, a guy who's in Bristol, he was talking about how like people in Bristol Square were just in clumps, just in
just hanging out.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we had the whole eat out to help out, and it's not the restaurant's fault that everything spread because I'm pretty sure a lot of restaurants did it well. They did the whole
No,
social distance.
I don't think going out to eat at a restaurant helped like bring up the cases because that was back in August,
No, it
right?
was all the streets.
It
It
was
was
at the
all of the
streets and like
streets.
maybe
Yeah,
universities opening up again because that was back
yeah,
in August.
yeah.
It was
Basically, it's
relatively
not.
stable in
Yeah,
August, but now in October, like thousands of cases a
yeah.
day, something happened in between, which caused
It's
all
not the
this.
restaurant's fault, right? It's not the restaurant's fault. It's all the people going to the restaurants. I'd say is more their fault slightly. Not
Mm.
everyone, but just because everybody just went out. Oh, Mondays, Fridays, and Thursdays, or whatever, we can go out and get half price. Let's all go, and
Half
it's all the
price
streets and
Nando's.
stuff like that. Honestly, that is
Yeah.
that anybody would go for that. But the whole fact is, it's just
Yeah.
everybody got a
Yeah.
bit too excited.
Yeah, like we were stuck indoors for like ages. Like, what
Six
do you
months
expect? I
probably.
guess
Yeah.
people want to go out, and this is what it's come to.
I
So,
mean, speak for yourself. I'm fine inside.
anyway, back
Yeah,
to the
but
topic.
yeah.
I do want to talk
Anyway,
about a bit more about like the coronavirus. I mean vaccines in general. So you know how like
vaccines
it
in
takes
general.
a long time to test the vaccine and do these like
Yes.
tests. In Kipo, they literally make the cure or the drug, and then they just give it to everyone without like trials and testing. Like you
No,
could
no.
definitely
Listen.
see.
Do you think they care?
Oh, that's true. Dr. Amelia would not care. But what if
Yeah, she doesn't care.
there was a side effect that was beneficial for like the good guys and bad for Dr.
They all
Amelia?
just became megas. They all
Yeah,
just
I mean,
became
I
megas.
think it's really important to like test your drugs before you start dishing it out to people. But
No, she
anyway,
did test them though. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure she probably
I don't
tested
know.
them on like the mutes nearby.
Oh yeah, she did. She captured some of them. She captured
Yeah.
that K-pop narwhal, and I do want to talk about the songs.
You absolutely love for some reason.
I love the K-pop narwhals in the show. So Kipo, the Age of Wonder Beasts,
I'm
is
sorry.
the show Kipo is like it's really good in terms of the themes and the animation style. But what it really does well is it does the music to like the best of standards. The music is absolutely amazing. Like I can listen to the Kipo soundtrack all day.
Yeah, I need to go back to like the season 1 soundtracks and find that like rap music because like that sort of upbeat hip
Yeah,
hop music
yeah.
was actually so nice.
I'd say season one was like hip hop. I don't know. I don't really know the season two
Yeah,
style,
it
but
was. I
season
don't
three
know.
did have a lot of K-pop in it, and like,
The whole thing about Kiba, she's like this punk rock kid, to be honest.
you could definitely see that
Especially
in the at the
in
last
the
scene.
yeah,
You
in
could
the
see that.
time skip. But
Yeah.
the soundtracks in Kipo, it's the whole thing is like I swear the whole thing that brings people together in Kipo is music. Because
Mm.
music is the language we all understand. Or
Yeah.
we can all appreciate.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't care for the meanings of a lyric, you can still bob your
Like
head
I
to
don't
it.
speak Korean. I don't understand what the lyrics of those K-pop songs are, but like I dance to them like that.
That's basically every weeb as well.
Pretty
We don't
much.
like that. That's the one thing. That's the whole jokes about what K-pop stands and weebs kind of come together in. Not understanding the lyrics we listen to.
Yeah. But like you do get
Yeah.
like some K-pop stars who would learn Korean. Like my sister, she loves K-pop and she's
I
like
mean, I swear,
learning Korean.
if I could understand the lyrics of the songs I listen to, which are Japanese, I would love it. And that's why I listen to some English covers
Mm.
sometimes. But
You know
like only
what?
good ones, not
I'm
so,
surprised.
yeah.
I'm surprised they only brought in K-pop for season 3 because I'm pretty sure like the animation studio who worked on K-pop is based in Korea. I
Kipo?
think.
Oh,
Yeah, Kipo.
really? Who are
Yeah.
they?
I just look at it at the credits of the when I'm watching it. I'm pretty sure it's like some Korean studio, and I'm
Oh,
surprised.
have you been looking at the credits because of Popcorn Coach? You've been looking for that one guy. I'm
Nah,
sorry.
nah. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, we could mention that. So apparently, like the Hollywood industry is like so small. Um, like people work on everything. Basically, you can like watch every movie, and you'll see like the same person doing the same job all the time. That's
I
pretty
think
cool.
I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but if we have, we're sorry. But it's just something kind of funny about it.
Yeah. Oh, I do know
Yeah.
one voice actor who's in like everything, and that's D. Bradley Baker, I think. He does all the
He's Perry the Platypus.
he does all the animal sounds. He does like the voice of Appa and
Yeah.
Momo in Avatar, and he does like a few
Yeah.
characters in
Yeah,
Kipo.
no, like especially like back in the day, the English voice acting community would have been pretty small as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, so
Being honest.
this guy does like all the animal stuff. Like literally every show I've seen, he's in it, and he's doing like animal sounds. He's even in like the Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure he voices all the clones. I think.
Really,
I think he's
yeah.
that guy who he voices all the
Yeah, but
clones.
basically, it's like nowadays you see a lot more people voice acting
Mm.
because even back in the day, like some like teenage boy characters were voiced by women as well because there weren't even that many male people, I suppose, who could do like teenage boy voices. Maybe I don't
And I
know.
guess it's maybe like they didn't. I think maybe it's to do with like they wanted a higher pitch voice,
Yes,
and they
yeah.
couldn't like get kids to do it. I guess because maybe there's it's maybe I'm pretty sure it's like in terms of regulations, it's harder to hire child actors compared to like
Yeah,
adult
yeah.
actors.
But basically, the whole point is nowadays there are a lot more people in the voice acting
Yeah.
industry. A lot more people like coming into it. A lot more people maybe coming into it through like Fiverr and YouTube as well, like
Yeah.
building something for
And like
themselves.
technology is getting cheaper. You could like set up your own studio at home. Maybe back in the day it was limited to the people living around
That's what,
Hollywood
yeah,
that could.
that's what some
Yeah.
companies are doing, right? Like Funimation, the people who dub a lot of anime, a lot of their voice actors are sending in lines from home as
Mm,
well.
yeah. So
Oh,
I'm getting a bit.
quick thing for you,
Yeah.
Seth.
Sure.
Just a quick about the studio who animated Kipo.
Yes.
They also animated Korra.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's
They
cool.
did it for episodes 1 to 12, 19 to 20. Some of the episodes, that is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanna like go
Back
back
to what we were
back
talking
to what we were
about.
talking about. We were like talking about music, right? This
It's
brings us
amazing
on
music.
to the song of the week. Awesome segue.
We could even say songs of the week because we can mention some
Songs.
others as
Yeah, we
well.
could mention some
Yeah,
others,
but yeah,
but
the main one
the
though,
main
the one
one
we
is
both were like, hell yeah,
yeah,
is Amelia.
Heroes on Fire. So this was like featured in like season 1.
Season 2.
Was it?
I think
Oh,
it was
I
season
think
2.
no, I think it was season 1. It
Uh,
was like in there was a scene where they found this old karaoke machine, and that's where the song was. It's like this
I'll take a look. I'll take a look.
power,
Oh,
like a really
I'm
uplifting,
trying to find.
inspirational like fight song, I guess. Um, called Heroes on Fire, and like it's just really catchy to sing to. I could sing it right now if I wanted to embarrass myself on this podcast, but
It
I
was
won't.
season 2. It
Was
was
it?
season 2.
Okay.
It was To Catch a Death Stalker,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Okay.
It's a great song. It's sort of like
Yeah.
something you can sing with your friends and stuff.
Yeah. And like I think this song was all about like one of the big things during that season was Wolf being this like animal almost. She was like raised by wolves. She was like not very friendly. She was like
She got betrayed by said wolves.
yeah, she was like savage. She had a traumatized childhood, and she, this song like gave her her humanity, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like before, she, as I said, she was like a wolf, and then Kipo came along and was like, come and sing this song with me," and this was like the first time we saw this character like be a bit more human and be more like approachable and friendly.
Be a teen.
Be a normal teenager, because like she was so focused on surviving and fighting, and she never got to like live, you
Yeah.
know. So that's. Do you
There
want
are
to add
some other
anything?
songs I
Yeah.
would mention as well. The main song, Age of Wonderbeast, The Age of Wonderbeast, right?
The intro
Honestly,
song.
I don't think
I
I'd
love
ever
that song.
noticed that song in season 1, right? But at the end of the show, it just was so good. It was so
Yeah.
good at the end of
Yeah.
the show. The one song that I keep nagging Seth about because I couldn't find it, then he found it for me. Was one I think it was The Cure.
The Cure. Yeah.
'Cause in the context of when it was playing, it was so sad and so emotional.
This was like the
Because
order. It was like Order 66, right?
it was Order
Dr.
66.
Amelia and her human friends like stormed the mutes like base and started
Yeah,
shooting everyone with like tranquilizer darts
Cure.
filled with the
Yeah.
cure, and it was like Order 66, just shooting everyone, and the song playing in the background was
It was such a nice song, and I was like, I need to find this, and then Seth found it for me the other
yeah.
day. So thank you.
So that was a cool song.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really love it. What I love about shows like Kipo and like I'm gonna say Beyblade, the original Beyblade series, is when the soundtracks played during an emotional moment. They're not just music, right? Because normal instrumental music is great, but
Mhm.
when they're vocal songs, something just
Yeah.
feels different.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to hear like a vocal song during a really emotional moment and stuff.
And that doesn't often happen. Like
Yeah,
I during emotional like scenes, you might have like some cool orchestral or like backing soundtrack
yeah.
to go with it. It's quite rare to get like vocals
It is,
um
and
doing that.
that's the reason
Yeah.
why I love some of the soundtracks from the original Beyblade series because they're not just instrumental songs; they're actual songs, and it's the same songs that play throughout the series.
Mm.
But every time you hear them during the battles, it's so hype as well, and that's
Yeah.
the sort of thing.
So yeah,
Do you want to
let's move on
mention
to
the?
like we're gonna quickly mention the new Raya and the Last Dragon trailer, which released
Disney
like
original film as well?
2 days ago. It's like the first original animated film since Moana, because before then, like I mean, since then we had like
All
Frozen
right,
2 and
we
Wreck
had
It Ralph 2.
sequels.
We had
Yeah,
sequels basically. So this is like the first original one since Moana. And you've
or
seen the
like
trailer,
in the
right?
last. Yep, I've seen the trailer.
It's amazing, I think. Like
It has the seriousness that
it's got
Disney
like
films have.
yeah.
That's the thing about Disney. It's made for kids, but you can appreciate the story in it now,
I saw this
especially
like,
nowadays.
yeah, I saw this funny comment where it was like, you know, it's a Disney film when the water has budget. That like that shot of in the trailer where the water was going up the stairs, it looked so real, even though it's not real. Like the water.
Yeah, it's not like, yeah. I'm just gonna say like especially like Disney films, they can be so serious yet they're so comedic at the same time. And
They've
it's
got funny
great.
moments.
Especially Raya, I already love like the main duo of Raya being her and her like little armadillo.
Yeah, that's
It's already so
so. I think
adorable.
so. The trailer was like split into two. There was like this
Yeah,
first scene of Raya as a younger kid, maybe 14, like
yeah,
being a ninja, like climbing on rooftops, and like it reminded me of like Indiana Jones because she was in that like temple,
yeah.
like
Pretty
that
much, pretty
underground thing,
much.
and she was fighting this masked dude who looks a lot like the blue spirit guy from Avatar.
Yeah.
You know what, like it's a big thing. People are comparing Raya to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they
And
get
like
lots of
you and some
Avatar
other
vibes.
people, some people think about Katara when they
Yeah,
saw young Raya, right?
and
But then a
yeah,
few of you big brain people were like, no, it's more like
it's
Korra.
thing is like people kind of get triggered at that because
No,
it's
no,
based on Asian culture, but like
exactly.
they're
I
both
think
based on Asian culture. That's why you get similar vibes. So
I
that's
think the reason
in
is, I'll
defense.
say the
Yeah,
reason that just came to mind is the fact that since Avatar, there's not really been a big animated show which has used said culture.
mm.
So everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, this was an Avatar, this was an Avatar, it's only been an Avatar. No, it's been in real life.
It's quite an underrepresented like culture, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's why
yeah,
everybody's like, oh, it's like, oh, it's. So the thing is, people can't think of. They think of ripping off shows instead of taking inspiration
from the
from the same
culture.
source or from the
Yeah,
either from the culture and the same source or from
yeah,
the show itself. It's
yeah.
called taking inspiration,
I don't.
not
People are
ripping off.
saying, people are saying, oh, Disney is copying Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh
No,
no,
they're not.
no!
Disney are taking inspiration from the same culture that Avatar was
Do you know
based on,
what they are?
basically.
They are the pessimists who cannot look on good
Hmm.
things.
Yes.
There is more to life than just animated shows. I know. Wow, hypocrite.
The thing is,
I'm kidding,
I'm
but
glad
yeah,
actually that Raya is exploring this culture because we never see
it's
it.
kind of your
Basically,
culture as
it is.
well.
It's basically my culture, because I'm from the
Yeah,
Philippines, and like it was so cool to see Raya having the two stick weapons, and that's like a traditional Filipino like weapon.
yeah.
Those like bamboo stick things.
I,
That's pretty
I'm
cool.
also excited
Like
because
you don't normally see that. Yeah.
it's enough. Again, they've gone with the sort of whole thing. Seeing the main character grow up from a child, like Frozen did it.
Mm.
Um, Moana did it.
The armadillo guy
This one
grew
looks
up
like
so
the
much.
coolest one yet, though, because she seems like she actually has a backstory, like
Yeah,
proper
yeah,
backstory. It's not like she was destined to do this; she chased after this.
that's
So
true.
I'm sorry, I'm tripping on my words, but like Moana was sort of destined to do this from a child.
Mm,
Aunt Elsa
yeah,
was born with
Elsa
their
was
powers,
kind
but
of yeah.
Raya, this is her dream. She's
Yeah.
following her passion,
We'll see
right?
where it goes actually,
Yeah, we'll
because
see where
yeah.
it goes. It
But I
looks
just
like
want
it
to
will be
say
amazing.
the armadillo guy called Tuk Tuk was like really small, like fits within your hand at the beginning, and then at the end when they've grown up a bit, maybe this they haven't grown up that much because Raya still looks quite young. But like the armadillo has grown to like the size of
I'll say
a
if
bus.
if I were to guess the time skip, right, I'd say at the start she's around 13, right,
13, yeah.
and it's been like at least
I'd say
5 years,
five
so she's like
years.
17, 18,
Yeah,
right?
that's like a
But yeah,
pretty good.
I'm gonna love this. Is probably going to be, I'll say it now, this is probably going to be one of the best animal protagonist pairings yet,
Yeah,
to
and
be
I
honest.
hope like the cinemas and movie theaters, whatever, like stay open
Yeah,
because this is like one of those things you want to go out and see with
yeah.
friends. I think.
But like, because if there's one thing Disney does well in some films, it's the animal protagonist
Mm,
pairing.
yeah.
It's great. But do you want to quickly mention
We'll quickly mention
our other show?
the other show that we're gonna watch very soon when it comes out next week, as of
And I
recording,
also just caught up with it the
is
other day, these
Mandalorian
first few days.
season 2. So Sal, as he
Yes.
said, just recently watched the Mandalorian season 1. So thoughts on season 1, I guess.
I did like it. You can
liked
tell.
it?
You can tell it's the show with rare. It's the show that has the overarching story, but the overarching story wasn't important in the first season.
Yeah, I mean it was
But
like a build-up, I guess.
Now we're getting into the main story,
Yeah.
and it's so good because of the fact that, okay, everybody knows this. I've not yet seen the original trilogy. I will get on it soon.
Wait, you
but
still
I know
haven't
enough
seen it?
about the show. Look, half terms this week.
We got like okay.
Week
I
of
thought you
half-terms
would have
coming.
seen it by now, seeing as we
No,
got Disney
I was
Plus like
focused
last
on
week.
I'm focused on Gravity Falls and Mandalorian right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
Basically, the final frame,
the final scene,
shot
yeah.
of season 1 really got me proper hyped.
It was Moff Gideon with the Darksaber.
Yeah, so because obviously I've seen the Clone Wars,
and you've seen Rebels. So yeah,
I know what that is. I know
yeah.
the history behind it.
Yeah.
So that's what's really got me hyped.
To be fair,
and now
I feel like watching Rebels and the Clone Wars is better at providing context for the Mandalorian compared to the original trilogy. Like, because of the Mandalorian stuff.
You don't hear about the Mandalorians much at all in the films.
In the movies, like, the only Mandalorian reference you've got is Boba Fett, and he doesn't even, like, apart from the armor, there's nothing that talks about Mandalorian
Do you know something I'm interested to find?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, because we have to keep this brief, but it's the fact, of course, we're not going to see Baby Yoda grow up quickly, because he's already 50 years old,
and he's still a baby, right? Yeah.
Wait, but the thing I'm excited for, right, is the fact that they're going to raise Baby Yoda in Mandalorian culture instead of Jedi culture.
We'll see, because, like, I think the premise for season 2, and, like, is that Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, was quested to return Baby Yoda to his people, which is either the species,
finally learning.
Either the species, right, or the Jedi. But there aren't many Jedi left. That's the problem. But I think that's going to be the main storyline for season 2, is finding the Jedi.
Yeah, the thing we've all been excited for months, and now I can really understand why you would be even more excited, is being Ahsoka and like.
Ahsoka and Sabine being back would be amazing.
Has Sabine been confirmed to be in the show?
I don't know. They've confirmed actors, but like, thing is, we're gonna end like very soon because we're rapidly approaching like 1 hour, so we won't really have time for question of the day. I mean, we might do it, but Sabine.
We might start with it next time since we're sort of recording in the same time frame. So
the Mandalorian are keeping all their cards to themselves. They haven't revealed much in the trailers. They haven't like confirmed any new characters per se. So like, this is probably a good thing because we're gonna have like some surprises. Like Baby Yoda was a big surprise.
Yeah,
we can probably expect more surprises for season 2.
Can I say, because I am a big Rebels boy, because it's really what got me started, right? Ahsoka makes sense because she's one of the last Jedis, right?
Or last 4
seasons. And Sabine makes sense because she's a Mandalorian by blood.
Yeah,
she's not dead already, because she's probably not dead because we saw her alive at the end of the Empire's War, right?
Yeah.
So a Mandalorian going to a Mandalorian, and a Jedi going to what is literally what her old master, one of her old master species, right?
Imagine if that was like Yoda's son or something.
I swear, like if Ahsoka shows up, sees Baby Yoda, she's gonna be like, I have way too many questions to ask you right now. To which Din does not know the answers, and that's why he's going on his quest. But basically, sum it up, Mando season 2 should not be the end of the Mandalorian.
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah, it's definitely not. I think there's going to be season 3 and maybe season 4 and hopefully like season 5. You know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's going to be great, and we're excited for it.
I think like at least 40 episodes in total would be good. So that's like 5 seasons. They do 8 per season, I think.
And now we know for sure that we're gonna have less random events happen and more story-driven events.
Hopefully,
as well.
Hopefully we've got a more coherent story. But anyway, question of the day: how is life since the last podcast recording? You've got like a minute.
For me, it feels quite normal. To be honest, it doesn't seem different to me.
Okay, and for me, I'm glad to be back at school and with everyone. So yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
That's pretty much
And I
all
hope,
yeah. Sorry.
I hope in the coming term I can have my club back as well.
Your Beyblade and anime fandom club.
I'm gonna focus less on Beyblade and more on pop culture stuff. But anyway, yes, take us out.
Anyway, that's pretty much all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully we'll see you in the next podcast. I pretty much forgot what I'm supposed to be saying. Oh yes, be sure you follow us and like subscribe and all that, and be sure to like share this with friends and stuff. And we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.